Where are we? We're at the Ipswich Show, 151 years, a traditional show. Come and see it. It's a picture-perfect day. I'm looking at the big scenic rim ridge. It's sensational. But let's cross down to the man that knows all about Ipswich. He is the Ipswich historian. If you haven't checked out his stuff, it's historyouthere.com. His name's Harold the H. Peacock-a-doodle-doo. He's actually Harold Peacock is his name, and he was in last week. What was he doing? Something with drug arm. How are you, Harold?
Oh, very well, thanks, Danny. Yeah, happy show day. It's a beautiful day today, isn't it?
Yeah, just quickly, how was the drug arm launched on the Sunday?
Oh, it was the launch of the 175th anniversary. A lot of great people there and a lot of commitment for the next 175 years too. So I want to thank everyone for their support.
Yeah, it's just sad how people are doing it tough in that area. Now, we better tell people this happened in 1927, 97 years ago. 97
years ago. You don't have to worry. These people won't be there today. But before we go, I just want to give shout-outs to 2 new followers, Danny,
yes,
because they are loving the show this week. I've got a number of messages. There's John in Perth and Luke in Adelaide. Hello, John in Perth. I know you guys get up early, but Danny loves you for it. So
John in Perth and Luke in Adelaide. Lovely having you on the program. Historyouthere.com. Tune it in. Download the app. All the www.westbremerradio.com.au. But we're talking about 2 notorious murderers were spotted at the Ipswich Show in 1927. Good name for a band.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the Ipswich Show has had a number of concerning events over the years. Like in 1951, a man died while watching the ring events. In 1948, police were called to investigate stolen champion chickens. In 1940, a monkey escaped and terrorised the women.
A monkey?
In 1939, a nurse was flung from the Chairplane ride.
Oh, my decent God.
And in 1936, a champion Clydesdale was murdered. So there's been a lot going on there in 151 years. But go back a little further for an incredible sighting. It was at the 1927 Ipswich Show that began exactly 97 years ago today, on the 18th of May, 1927. Now, the highlight of that day was easily the splendid performance in the Grand Champion Home Milking Competition by Queenie. Now, she was owned by Mr. Wilhelm Martin Krause of Brookton Farm at Lanefield. Now, Wilhelm was a councillor on the Rosewood Shire Council, but it was his cow Queenie who was the star. Her yield in 24 hours was 70 pounds of milk, or over 7.5 gallons. It was an amazing new record.
Wow.
But there was a more macabre present seen at the Ipswich Show that year.
What happened?
It was the appearance of Philip Trefine, that's Philip Trefine, and William Coulter. Now, if those names don't mean anything to you, then it's probably a good thing.
Please explain.
They were discovered illegally processing gold in the Western Australian bush outside of Kalgoorlie.
Wow.
They were surprised by 2 police officers, and so they shot them both, mutilated and burned the bodies, and dumped them down a disused mine shaft.
Good blokes.
Now, this is still considered today the worst murders ever committed against police officers in Australia.
Wow.
And at the time, it received worldwide attention.
Wow.
Now, the policemen they murdered were John Walsh and Alexander Pittman, so we should remember them.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, just a fortnight ago, a new memorial was unveiled in Western Australia honouring the 2 of them. Now, with the help of Aboriginal trackers, the murderers Trefine and Coulter they would be eventually captured, convicted and executed.
Wow.
Now, they also had an accomplice who had helped dispose of the bodies, but he turned king's evidence and avoided justice.
Oh, bludger.
And that was much to the disgust of the jury hearing the case. But at the Ipswich Show, their appearance was quite bizarre and a bit off. You see, Coulter was seen holding a gun, while Trefine held a blood-stained axe. Everyone who saw it was just horrified. But the thing is, spookily, both Coulter and Trefine had actually been executed in Western Australia 6 months earlier in 1926. Now, you should remember that capital punishment didn't exist in Queensland anymore at the time. Queensland's last hanging had been in 1913.
Right.
And in 1922, it became the first state in Australia to abolish the death penalty. Now, Western Australia was still going strong in the 1960s, while New South Wales was the last state to get rid of the death penalty in 1985. But what was seen at the Ipswich Show in 1927 was weird.
What?
It was a notorious murder scene recreated with dummies. You see, 2 wax figures of the murderers were there, one sitting and one standing. Between them lay the victims, and the scene was complete with a blood-stained saw. It was off. Like, one man who had personally known the murderers, he said that the wax figures weren't even close to true likenesses. In fact, the only thing that looked like Trefine was his moustache.
That's
and
like
the only
mine.
and the only thing that looked like Coulter was the fact that he did not have a moustache.
Right.
Still, the public at the Ipswich Show that year didn't care about the detail because they got to see the infamous executed murderers while the news was still fresh. Now, these wax figures then toured across Australia and across shows across Australia for a number of years. And so, Danny, you never know what you might find at the Ipswich Show.
Oh, mate, your stories, you're a builder. A crescendo, the way you build a story up and some of the quirky little things you find out, only you are the best Ipswich historian I ever have met.
Well, Ipswich Show is the best Ipswich Show I've ever been to. It is absolutely brilliant, and you got to get there every year and support it.
You have to. It's a traditional show. You don't know how long these traditional shows will last, but it's still got all the old things from all the old shows from the past. It's a real country show, so come and support it. The Ipswich Show, 151 years old, and that was the man that controls historyouthere.com, Harold Peacock, on West Bremer Radio. It's 8:17.